Yeah, hello, yeah. It's Kilt-Man here from Kilt Mansion. I've just took delivery of 6 boxes of, well, it says experimental air. And they've come from Transylvania. But they've come here. And I think there's some kind of label on it saying Carfax Abbey. Now, I don't know how they've got here, but it's clearly some kind of mistake. Pardon? Yeah, hang on. 1, 2, 3. I love to count. 6, 7, 8. There's 8 boxes of experimental air. Yeah. Can you guys come and pick them up then? Because obviously the shipping for these is going to cost me quite a bit. Brilliant. But what do we do with them in the meantime? Yes, we've got quite a large basement. Put them down there. Okay, yeah. All right, I'll get my people to put them down in the basement now. Brilliant, and I'll await your pickup. Cheers now. Ta-ra. Hey folks, I am Count Kilt-Man. I bid you welcome. Enter freely and of your own will, and leave some of the happiness that you bring. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? Hope we're doing very, very well. Now, bright sunlight came through the window there. Watch out. Not a good sign for us vampiric folk. I've got something really, really great to show you. Something that I'm really going to plug good style and urge you all to go out and purchase for yourselves, because this is extraordinarily good. Now, if enthusiastic superlatives really, really bring up your allergies, then please stop watching now, because I can think of nothing more than fawning admiration for this. This, folks, a hardback black and white graphic novel of Bram Stoker's Dracula from Legendary Comics. But, even though this adheres very faithfully to Bram Stoker's original 1897 text of Dracula, as you can see here, we have Bela Lugosi. Because what I'm holding right here, and what I implore you, if you're a fan of horror, a fan of Bela Lugosi, a fan of Stoker, a fan of Dracula, just if you're a fan of this channel, then you must be one of those things I just described. You must get this. This came out in the latter section of 2020, but I only ridiculously got mine yesterday because I forgot to order it. I just forgot it even existed, and then I finally had a brainwave. My God, I never got that book. Well, now I have, and here it is, and I'm going to show you it and discuss it. This is an authorised edition, authorised by the Lugosi legacy, the Lugosi estate. His grandkids now own the rights to Bela Lugosi's image and likeness. So it's now a brand. As you can see there, you've pretty much got the brand icon there. Bela Lugosi, synonymous with playing Dracula. He played Dracula on stage. Bram Stoker wrote the book in it was published in 1897. Bram Stoker never actually saw the success of what he wrote, as he died way before the stage productions and obviously Tod Browning's 1931 classic movie masterpiece for Universal came out. So he never saw the success that his creation would have, and the vast influence it would hold across the entire genre. Now, initially with Dean Hamilton, it was written for the stage, and Bram Stoker's immense text of journals, notes, diaries, transcribes from radio phonograph, transcriptions from Dr. Seward, all very highly technological at the time. Very forward thinking was Bram Stoker and his characters. And that hugely globe-trotting, lots of toings and froings, lots and lots of incident and characters, obviously wouldn't lend itself to a stage production. So Dean Hamilton condensed it all and made it pretty much pretty much what you see in the 1931 Tod Browning movie. Almost like a parlour room set sort of sinister mystery with a vampire. It had lots of special effects to it. It had bats on strings coming through windows. It had smoke and mist effects. It had magician's boxes where so Dracula could hide inside a coffin and they'd smash open the coffin, but it was a trick floor, so the actor would disappear. The audience would be aghast. The show itself got nothing but critical disdain. It was ridiculed, but it had people queuing up round the block for it. It was pretty much a vintage blockbuster before the term was even coined. So its fame, its success was already sealed. It then is taken across the pond to Broadway, and the same show is then sort of changed around by John L. Balderston, who condensed it all mainly for American audiences, because some of the fruity language and the dialogue that was there, Americans, New Yorkers might not have kind of got the gist of it all. So it was changed a little bit. And who did he get to play Dracula? Bela Lugosi. Bela Blasco, an emigre from Hungary, who had fled Hungary during a time of political turmoil and unrest and come to America. I believe New Orleans, but then worked his way up through America and then got citizenship via Ellis Island and became an American citizen. Bela Blasco was a stage actor of refinement and real sincerity and conviction, and he played Dracula on stage. So, when Universal, who had long wanted to film a version, an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, there'd already been two versions. There'd been Dracula the Undead, or Dracula is dead but coming back and biting people. There is a version of it which is long forgotten now and long unseen. And then of course there is Max Schreck for F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu, Count Graf Orlok, which is the Dracula story. And of course it's unofficial, and now we know, love and revere it. But Universal still wanted to do Bram Stoker's story, the globe-trotting, the adventure, that suave, satanic, sinister, fiendish count and his debauchery on English shores and English moors and society. That's what they wanted to do. So initially, when they finally got the rights to do it, they wanted Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces, to play Dracula. Now, you've got to imagine how that would have looked. Lon Chaney Sr. did his own makeup and was always forever changing his image, his appearance, becoming monstrous and demonic. And they are absolutely classic, devoutly revered makeup designs which he himself created and applied. Sadly, he died of throat cancer before the film was going to get made. Oh, so where are you going to go now? Well, let's look to the stage, because there's this guy who's got an accent. He is sinister, sophisticated, suave. And that version he's playing on stage, because we haven't got the money, we haven't got the budget, we haven't got the locations or the cast to do all that globe-trotting and all those little adventures and incidents that Bram Stoker writes about so eloquently. Let's do the condensed parlour room version of Dracula, but with the guy who's been doing it for years. So, enter Bela Lugosi. Bela Blasco was actually from a region of Hungary called Lugos, or Lugos probably. So his name, his theatrical name, became Bela Lugosi. And he stepped into the cape, and not the fangs, as it turns out. No fangs. And everyone goes on about the widow's peak that he adopts. In later movies, Bela Lugosi would often be seen with a widow's peak. It would become a bit of a trademark. But as you can see there, from this gorgeously, fantastically vivid and so authentic and accurate depiction of his likeness there, it's not really a widow's peak at all. It's very, very sort of, flattened across the fod. It's not that pointy down. It's not like this. Can you see here? There's a mask of Bela Lugosi from White Zombie, where he plays the majestically named Mère de Légende, who controls a troop of voodoo created zombies. And he has the widow's peak there. But anyway, you keep watch there, sir. But the film became immortalised. It put horror as a genre on the map. You would have James Whale doing Frankenstein pretty much straight after, and many rumours abound that Bela Lugosi was offered the role of playing Frankenstein's monster but turned it down because he didn't want to be typecast as a monster, which of course is exactly what happened to him anyway. That, folks, is just folklore. It's Hollywood myth, because Bela Lugosi would not have turned it down. It was going to make his name, seal the deal. You know, on the back of Dracula, it would make him the man, the horror man of Hollywood. But he was tested, he was tried, and they did not like what they saw. Of course, he would later go on to play Frankenstein's monster in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which I've discussed a lot in the past. And, well, you know, there's a lot of reasons why his version doesn't work, and yet his version of the monster becomes the one that, if you went to that little South American tribe, long lost pygmies off that wandering tributary off the Amazon, and you said, do Frankenstein, they're all going to go like this. Because that is what Bela Lugosi brought to the monster, because it was meant to be blind. Anyway, that's an entirely other story. Let's get back to this. Legendary Comics and Bela Lugosi estate have agreed to put out a version of Bram Stoker's original text, condensed quite a bit, with only a few subtle changes, but the actual story really follows what the original story was, the original novel was all about. With all the incidents, it's all there, and all the characters are all there. But in all the illustrations, it's Bela Lugosi's face. Bela Lugosi, without any shred of a doubt, is the definitive Dracula. Yes, we've all got our favourites, and pretty much everybody who's played Dracula in all the many movies, TV shows, and what have you, have all given something extra to the role. They've all made it slightly their own. And look at who you've got. Christopher Lee, magisterial, aristocratic, noble in two of Hammer's movies. Dracula, or in America, Horror of Dracula, and Dracula Prince of Darkness. Awesome. The rest of the Hammer's Dracula movies, there's elements you might enjoy, but Dracula, as Christopher Lee himself, was completely unused. If they gave him dialogue, Christopher Lee refused to say it, because unless you're going to give me Stoker's dialogue, I'm not saying these lines. And so he just literally stands there amid swirling mist and just makes the blood red eyes and doesn't do much else beyond that. So then you've got the likes of Jack Palance for Dan Curtis in the great TV movie version of Dracula, which is very good. You've got Louis Jourdan in the awesome BBC 1970s TV miniseries. He's fantastic. Frank Langella for John Badham in 1979. Richard Roxburgh in Van Helsing. Yeah, as the 80s pop star, neo-romantic look. And then you've got that guy that played him for Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss in the BBC's more recent BBC travesty of Dracula. We won't talk any more about that absolute drivel. But it is Bela. You think of Dracula, you think of Bela. What I find incredibly fascinating about Bela's performance is that even successive generations of people that come to watch that 1931 movie, the classic that is Dracula, as sedate, as theatrical, as stage-bound as it really is, they're bored by the lack of incident, but they're absolutely mesmerised by this guy and his performance. his face, his stare, his mannerisms, his expressions. He's very spidery in what he does. We all know that Max Schreck in Nosferatu, and the shadow play and the extended talent and his very rodent face, he is vermin, he is filth, he is parasitic, he is a virus, a plague. Bela plays Dracula as urbane, sophisticated, long dead aristocratic, but longing to seek life and youth of London and all the changes of society, which is what Bram Stoker's Dracula was. But he plays him as a spider when he is on the rampage, when he's going to put an attack on, when he's on the stalk. They're not wickedly long claws or talons, but they are pointed nails. There's a lack of fangs, we'll talk more about that. But the way he approaches his victims, and he's like this, the swell of the cape, the mesmer stare with the eyes. There's a lot of theatrical, this sort of thing, and hypnotizing with the hand and the eyes. He reminds me hugely of a spider sitting in its web, hunched over. Lots of weird off-kilter angles with the limbs. That's exactly what he is. He's predatory. He is. Once blood is there, and that's what he's after. Yeah, he transforms from the urbane gentleman, the refined gentleman he appears to be, the arts-loving gentleman, first encountering his, like, the harkers and all that around the theatre. And, you know, this element of spidery, shuddersome is just exactly what the character needed for that film, to make the film still magnetic, mesmerising, and hypnotic for modern audiences. And I know a great many women that are still hugely smitten and influenced by that performance, that portrayal. I know quite a few girls who've got Bela Lugosi tattoos in wonderful places. Goth chicks, we love them. God, we love them. Vamps, they are extremely gorgeous, and I've always been drawn to them. Sadly, the girl that I knew who mostly was smitten with that performance, sadly, and this might not come as a huge surprise to a lot of people, committed suicide. And she was tattooed with Bela Lugosi, and she could quote the film, quote him, and do it. For a girl to do, you know, Bela Lugosi's massively mangled enunciation of English words, because Bela Lugosi would put in extra syllables into every word. What? He would drag anything out. Some would say, oh, that was just the language difficulty he had. And many others say that, well, no, he knew what he was doing, and he was really embellishing, you know, that performance with that kind of accent to really give that dialogue some bite, some relish. Now, this particular girl could quote and literally do an incredible impersonation of Bela Lugosi, and I loved her. In my teens, I was massively smitten with her, and she dressed like a vamp and all that. She was gorgeous. She committed suicide. Helen, to you, hon. But anyway, Bela Lugosi would become synonymous with the role, as I've said, and he would become typecast, and yet he gave so many magnificent performances. Son of Frankenstein as Igor, he's fantastic. Island of Lost Souls as the Sayer of the Law, he is fantastic. Medicine in the Rue Morgue, the Black Cat, the Raven, often vying against his arch rival, Boris Karloff the Uncanny. Another emigre to the US, from bloody Blighty, from up the road, from me in fact. Well, quite a few miles up the road. And Karloff would be the one that seemed to show off more range and get more of the opportunities. Lugosi, on the other hand, Lugosi was huge in the Actors Guild of America. He fought for the rights of actors, and he was one of the prime movers and shakers to get rights for actors and people working on film sets, and the unions and all that involved. And he did seem to adopt the American way of life to a point. Many would say that the reason why suddenly Universal weren't using him, and he would go on to do Poverty Row quickies, things like The Ape Man, Plan 9 from Outer Space, Ed Wood, and all of that ilk, that he was driven to that by poverty, and of course he was. But the reasons why that happened are quite complex, and a lot of it does sit with Lugosi himself. Because what Bela would do, Bela would, even though he lived in LA, he would only fraternise with other Hungarian emigres, so he wouldn't necessarily, although he had adopted America as his place. And there's a great promotional video where he's literally playing Dracula for this poor reporter, and he's like, yes, I love your hamburgers and your Coca-Cola and whatever he's saying, like, but he puts the frighteners on this girl who then runs off, and it's a great interview with him, but it's so stage managed and perfectly acted and performed. But it's kind of poking fun at the whole American dream, because he didn't do that. He stayed with his own people in Hollywood, and that is what stymied perhaps a lot of good deals. He didn't have good agents, he did not have good PR, and he did drift into a massive 133 movies and appearances, or more, I'm not even sure now, but a lot of them really Poverty Row, quick, diabolical, nasty little cheapos. But if you watch those movies, and I've got a hell of a lot of them, if you watch them, he really gives everything every single time. Every single time. He never slums it. Even in Plan 9. You know, he still thinks he's on stage and he's doing Hamlet or King Lear. He is giving everything he's got to each performance. And that's what magnifies this guy. Always the lower tier, playing second fiddle to Boris Karloff. It's horribly unfair, but in many ways it kind of works as well for the legacy and the legend of Bela Lugosi. People then go back and rediscover and go, you know what? Bloody good, you know. What he does, no one else can do. As many of you know, because I've covered it so many times, the Wolfman. 1941's The Wolfman. My favourite creature feature from the vintage era. Of course, and my favourite character, the Wolfman. Werewolves are just the best monsters ever. But what's the scariest and most effective sequence in the Wolfman? Frankenstein is the Wolfman. In the Wolfman. It's where Jenny Williams, who is Lon Chaney Jr.'s, well, he wants this girl, but her friend comes along and they go to the gypsy circus, the gypsy fairs in town, and they want to get their fortune told. Bela playing a gypsy called Bela, the fortune teller, is the werewolf, and he will put the bite on Lon Chaney Jr. and turn him into the werewolf, but he'll kill Jenny Williams in the process, and Jenny Williams goes to his tent for her fortune told. That sequence when he sees the pentagram in the palm of a hand and he knows, and he gets the headache, and you see the scar on his forehead, go now, come back tomorrow, I gotta tell you your fortune now, and all this, and the horse is going crazy as he stands there and begins to transform. He turns into a four-legged werewolf, and he's killed by this. Yes, this, the wolf-headed cane that Lon carries as Larry Talbot, which will actually end up killing him as well. But so Bela Lugosi again, one of the most effective sequences in The Wolfman is his performance as Igor in Son of Frankenstein is just electrifying, and it's just, he is a wonderful actor. But the mannerisms, the accent. Anyway, we're here to discuss this from Legendary Comics. Now, I'm going to read out the people involved in this before I show you the imagery. Right, you have Bela G. Lugosi, and that's the only child of Bela Lugosi, and he's managing Lugosi's estate, so he gave permission to get this done. Lynn Lugosi Sparks, the granddaughter of Bela Lugosi, and she's also part of this Bela Lugosi legacy estates. Edmundo L. Gehring is the Filipino illustrator, the artist of what you're going to see. Kerry Gamble is the art director, I think, the art director, yeah. And I said before, Robert Napton, sorry about that. Robert Napton is the guy that's adapted this story and condensed certain things. As I said before, Carfax is now right by Whitby. All it's done, all that has done, has streamlined. There's my I've got several copies of Dracula. There's my first one, the first one I ever got, which came out the same year, 1979, as John Badham's version with Frank Langella playing Dracula. And that's my favourite one. And I've said many times that reading Dracula, Bram Stoker's original text, I get fed up of it. I am not a fan of the notes, the journals, the diaries, the transcripts, and the multiple person narrative. I love the story, although I think the story is massively flawed. That's another video. To be perfectly honest, Dracula is such a hugely influential landmark that it is pretty much beyond critique in many ways because of what its lasting legacy. As long as man, as a creature that likes to entertain and tell stories, exists in any sphere, any dimension, man will be telling the Dracula story to the ends of time. Will be, without a doubt. But I still have a lot of problems with the way the story is told. So when I read that novel, I do have trouble, and I do tend to I'm fed up with this now, and I'll skip bits, and then, or I might even just put it down and return to the films, But this version, folks, this version, Robert Napton's version, the way he's condensed it, brings all the dynamics, all the characters, all the adventure, all the action, and it makes it gory as well because you've got the artwork. Things that Stoker didn't really describe, he hinted at, you see. Now you don't see it in full-blooded tricolour Marvel style, it's in glorious black and white, but the imagery is stark, it's shadowy, it's emphatic, it's detailed. The dialogue, the narrative is extraordinarily well done. It reads superbly. I only got this yesterday and I devoured it immediately, which is why you didn't see a video of me yesterday, because I was reading this. I'm now going to show you, because the idea is, this is, and I love the way they've done that as well, like as a sort of preface page, a credits page, written like an old sort of, like almost like theatrical on the side of the theatre or the movie cinema, as the vintage style credit listing. Brilliant. And it's called Bram Stoker's Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. That's the name of this book. Bram Stoker's Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. You get a lovely introduction from Lynn Lugosi Sparks, that's the granddaughter, explaining a lot about memories and how this came to be, the legacy. Look at that. It is Lugosi. But as you will see, the brilliant little conceit is twofold. A, you're putting Lugosi's face to Bram Stoker's prose, but you're giving him fangs as well. He didn't have fangs in Tod Browning's 1931 movie. Bear in mind, Lugosi only played Dracula twice. He's in other vampire movies, but he only plays Dracula twice. 1931's Dracula, and of course Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein. And as I said before, even though that may be a comedy, and it's a wonderful comedy, it's a great Abbott Costello movie, but it's a great monster mash. You've got the Wolfman, you've got Frankenstein's monster in there as well, but Lugosi plays it. The horror element is played by all the monsters, and Lon Chaney, it's Larry Talbot again. They all play it with conviction, like this is their movie. They're doing it for real, and Lugosi is no exception. He's wonderful in that movie. Each chapter will begin with a different expression from Lugosi, and the artistry for Lugosi's expressions are extraordinarily good. They're vivid, they're bold, and they are genuine. Every single image I see of Lugosi in this book, I've seen in reality in a movie. You know, does that make sense? In reality, in a movie. So we have Lugosi as the coach driver. Look, you can see him there. The Dracula's caleche that picks up Jonathan Harker from the Borgo Pass. Of course, in the 1931 movie, it's not Jonathan Harker, it's actually Renfield that makes that trip. Well, we know Renfield's done it before anyway. The Master and all this. And we have the wolves and we have the blue flame. Okay, it's in black and white, so it's not blue there, but the blue flame. Francis Ford Coppola, in his version, it does depict the blue flame, but doesn't tell you what it is. In Dracula's text, Bram Stoker's text, and in this version, you learn what the blue flame is. I will read it to you in a second. Castle Dracula, there. In the notes at the end, you'll find out that image has been researched. It looks like what you see partly from a couple of views of Castle Dracula in the 1931 movie, but also it resembles Bram Castle in Transylvania, the real Castle Dracula. He's about to go up the steps. Everyone, of course, everyone's favourite sequence of any Dracula story is Jonathan Harker or anybody arriving at Castle Dracula. I am Dracula. Bela, buried in that cape as well. Look here, look. It's Bela's face. You see him, and you see him animalistic and snarling as well. You see him climbing down the walls, the castle walls. Here we go, I bid you welcome. Enter freely, and of your own will. Welcome to my house. Come freely, go safely, and leave some of the happiness you bring. Look at the handshake, look at the talons, the claws. As you can hear, I'm playing a bit of a playlist of Dracula themes from across the movies. Nothing from 1931 because we don't really want... Swan Lake really wouldn't fit. I know Philip Glass did do a version of the score which plays alongside some versions of the movie on blue, and wonderful it is too. But where was I going to with this? Yeah, here you go. Oh, look at that! Look at that! And of course, you know what's coming next. Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make. How he walks through that spider web without Dracula telling the history of the land, about the blue flame, why the blue flames are there. I'll read it out. Because the blue flame signifies places in Transylvania where treasures, old treasures, may be buried and secreted, because wars have been fought over Transylvania. And he does describe it here with a great depiction of carnage and battle. There is hardly a foot of this soil in all this region that has not been enriched by the blood of men, patriots, or invaders. These were stirring times, when the Austrian and the Hungarian came in hordes, and the patriots went out to meet them. We of the Dracula blood were amongst their leaders. And when the invader was triumphant, he found little, for whatever there was had been buried in friendly soil. Anyway. Harker manages to cut himself shaving, no reflection in the mirror, blah blah blah, and a great close-up of Bela's eyes. Many movies would focus on Bela's eyes. White Zombie again in particular, the mesmers there that Bela could put out there. And it is glorious. He was a good-looking guy. On stage, he would reduce women to swoons and faints in the audience. with that accent, that approach, that look, the swept back hair, the debonair aristocratic gait. He was a tall man as well, and that figure, it reduced women to quivering wrecks and men to just jealousy, which is what Dracula, not in Bram Stoker's novel, but all the film versions, is supposed to do. He's supposed to, he strikes love, lust in women's hearts, fear and jealousy in the hearts of men. Bela Lugosi himself could do that. Harker's cut himself, and Drac goes for the blood. Oh no! And of course, a mirror. A foul bauble of man's vanity. Gary Oldman does a great version of Dracula for Bram Stoker's Dracula, Coppola. But what they did there, they turned Dracula into a brooding, romantic anti-hero. That's not what Stoker wrote. So to call that Bram Stoker's Dracula is really fundamentally wrong. It may depict many of the events and bring in all the characters which many other versions didn't bother to do so. This book has them all. Quincy P. Morris is there. Big Bowie knife and Winchester rifle. Still making that sacrifice at the end. And, but it was not Dracula. They turned it into romance. I know I'm wearing that. And of course, the pivotal line would be, "Love never dies" is written down there somewhere above the kilt. And of course, now we're playing Władysław Kilar's score for Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is extraordinarily brilliant. Please tell me to stop saying the word extraordinary. I did warn you about enthusiastic superlatives, because we've barely even scratched the surface. He's only just met Jonathan Harker, for God's sake. But Gary Oldman, I almost said it again, as amazing as that portrayal is, it's not accurate. It's a great depiction, but it's just another depiction. As I said before, everyone who plays Dracula does bring something new to the role, because you've got to. What else can you do? Everyone at some point is going to be compared to Bela Lugosi, because Bela Lugosi is Dracula. It's like James Bond. People say Roger Moore as James Bond, George Lazenby as James Bond, Daniel Craig as James Bond, Sean Connery is James Bond. Bela Lugosi is Dracula. It's almost like he was born to play this role. The brides. Yes, they're there. The baby gets devoured. Yes. Look. As good looking as Bela Lugosi was, when he turned on the sinister smile, he looked horrible. And there's virtually no makeup on him. There's virtually no makeup, not even fangs. His face, because he's like me, bit of a pudgy face, got a bit going on around, bit too much coverage on the cheekbones. So when he goes, it's kind of horrible. So what was a good looking face? What I will say that they've done with this is that he does look slightly older, I think, in these depictions. But then again, he does get younger when he comes to London. Now, I wanted to show you the depiction of him climbing down the wall, which is tremendous. Look at that. There he is, coming down the wall. And Harker's above him in the window, watching. The sequence everyone wants to see, of course. And it happens a couple of times in the book. And it's Harker copies him going down there to get into the room that Dracula's in, to find out where the hell he is during the day, what's going on. It's even Coppola's version with Keanu Reeves doesn't really show what he's trying to do there. You just see Gary Oldman coming down with the full moon, all that kind of thing, and you're like, looks great, but what's the point? He goes out with a bag. He's got a little bag to go and catch babies to bring back for himself and for his brides. And he does discuss with his bride to keep off him, because once I've gone, you can have him then. But for now, he serves me. Oh, this, like, and they'd say about, you yourself have never loved. You get the dialogue where he's saying, yeah, I loved pretty much all of you in your time, but now I'm moving on. You get the Demeter. That's some great imagery, look at that. Harker making the descent to try and find Dracula in his coffin, having gorged on blood for his journey to England. But Harker can't kill him. Now we get to Whitby. Now, as I say, it gets condensed. So most of the action before we go back to Transylvania will take place in Whitby. Carfax Abbey will be alongside, well, it'll be in Whitby. And who are my neighbours? Oh, you've got a lunatic asylum round the corner. Oh, and my fiance. There's some old soak. Look at that. Like, he's just sighted the Demeter arriving out of a fog. What does it say? Like, looks, sounds, and smells like death. I can't make her out. She's Russian by the looks of her. She's knocking about. Doesn't know her mind a bit. She seems to see the storm coming. She's steered by death herself. Look at it. The lighthouse, the Demeter, the storm. Isn't that gorgeous? And the wolf escapes. Dracula in wolf form. There's other, obviously, look, I could read the damn thing out to you, but what would be the point of that? I'm urging you to get your own copy because this is just superlative. Whereas I can't get through the novel many times, I could read this over and over again. That condensing, that streamlining of the story really makes it sharper, more vivid, more exciting to behold. Look at this. The bat transformation. Things that Tod Browning could never have done. Sleep. You're protecting Mina there, of course. Something that you never saw. Fangs and biting. This version also has the wafer, the cross put on Mina's fod, and it stays there until they've slain Dracula at the end, like in the book. No other version seems to ever bother doing that, where it's there all the time. Lucy Westenra has returned with a small child with which to sup upon. Van Helsing, of course. Slaying Mina, putting her at peace. Whoa! So yeah, I say black and white. There'd be some people who go like, well, I wish it was in colour. I'd rather it was in colour. The film was in black and white. It's a marriage of the film, of Bela Lugosi's face, with Bram Stoker's story. That's the marriage. It's vintage, it's gothic. Black and white serves this perfectly. Perfectly. I wouldn't want this in colour. I genuinely wouldn't. Phonograph, recordings. Renfield going crazy. Once again, the eyes. Look. The way this is depicted is so beautiful. I read comic books all the time, and even I, after many years of reading comic books, get lost when people in a big panel, people are talking, and the bubbles there, bubbles there, bubbles there. You're like, well, and you started reading it in one way, and you go, oh shit, that was actually the reply to that over there. This book doesn't do that. This book, everything is very linear. Even when it does go cross panel, you know exactly the order it's meant to be read in. Oh, that sounds a really stupidly obvious thing, but look at that. That's almost photographic. Look at it. And it adds so much person. Look, there he is walking the streets of London. I love it. albeit hardly ever seen in the 1931 version, he does walk the streets of London. He kills the flower girl. The cape comes up and he leans into her. And then a bobby with a rain mac on comes up, blows his whistle, you know, and all this, and everyone comes around to have a look. Of course, nowadays they'd all be like filming it, wouldn't they? But I wish there was more of that. Of him actually, I will come to know your streets of London, and they will come to know me. He doesn't really do much, though. That's the thing. He doesn't do a great deal. Now, I'm gonna razz ahead. We have the rats, the pestilence. Because I want to come to something which I totally love about this. When they confront Dracula a couple of times. Renfield is there. He makes Mina drink his blood. Look at that. And it's Lugosi's face. Look at that. Wow. Yeah. Isn't that gorgeous? And there's a great shot there of Mina. I am unclean. I'm unclean. Look at her. She knows what's befallen her. And he vows revenge, obviously, because they destroy all his caskets and all that, and they drive him away. There's a depiction of him. Van Helsing's telling them all about his past. Look, this guy is not just a vampire. He's an alchemist. He's a scientist. He's a historian. Very learned, warrior. Bela Lugosi's face in armour on horseback, slaying the Saxon, the Hun, and the Turk. Mina with the burnt-in wafer on her head. But what I want to get to was the final tumultuous chase across Europe to get to Castle Dracula, to save Mina, kill Dracula. The circle of protection, and the brides attacking Van Helsing and Mina, trying to, sister, come to us, and then they go and kill the horse. Oh, here we go. Listen to this. Van Helsing going out and slaying the brides in the castle. The gypsies racing back. Look at this. This is what I love about this. And Coppola's version does put this in. They're all there, our heroes, our saviors, our vampire slayers. They're all there, armed to the teeth, chasing after them. And you get in this gloriously gothic graphic novel of beautiful Stoker's prose and this gothic literature and this gothic horror and dark, sublime romance. You get blam, 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 as they're shooting the gypsies. But it's great and it works. Crack with K's, crack as bullets whine off wagons. And it's pure Western stuff. It's gorgeous. And of course, it can only end well, mate. Dracula rises out of the coffin. He never does get his final moment, does he? Bowie knife plunged into him, and his head cleaved from his shoulders. And then his body moulders down. His face, his severed head, his face becomes beatific and at peace, and then begins to wither away as well. The end of Dracula. Bram Stoker's grandson, great-grandson, who was there, Dacre Stoker, wrote the official sequel to Dracula, Dracula the Undead, and also a prequel which is just called Dracula. And I recommend them as well, actually. I've read them both, and yeah, they're a great addition. And Dracula, especially the prequel, brings in Bram Stoker in a great way. I like the way he's done that. I love the eloquence of it all and the poetry. But folks, I'm going to run out of time very, very soon. Legendary Comics, Bram Stoker's Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. This is absolutely a revelation. Gorgeous book. A brilliant story told in possibly the most vivid, exciting fashion, with the definitive Dracula. Folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man, at your services. Take it easy. Keep it kilted. Keep it Celtic. And I'm going to see you all on a moonlit night near you soon. And by the way, I never drink wine, only whiskey.